Hey, Julie, soak it in. Is everybody like in a spot where you guys can take notes and ask questions? All right, let's just jump into it then. So on all of this, the Ignite stuff, I mean, it really is 18 hours of very focused content on every aspect of the real estate business, all the way from starting your business, figuring out your vision, your mission, that kind of stuff, your drive. Guys, I'm telling you, the value proposition is so huge. I hope that you've sat down and really thought about, like, while we're talking about buyers, what is it that you're going to bring to the buyer? And maybe you guys need to let me know if you're just so new we don't even know what that is, right? There's nothing wrong with being new. Everybody's got to be a new agent or plugging back in or whatever it might be. There's nothing wrong with that. So let me know that as well. But it is bringing that, like, that value proposition is, why would they work with you, or how are you going to capture them and provide value so that they do work with you? I mean, is that all kind of stuff that you guys might be looking for? You can flash your mics, raise your hand, unmute and say yes, or anything. Just make sure, I know you guys can hear me because Dave can hear me. So this is your guys' class. I want you to get the most information out of this that you can really, truly take back into your business and use it. So jump in anytime while I'm going through this stuff. So it's 18 hours of all this content. It's everything from lead generating, the buyer presentations. Just remember, like on the Spark stuff, this is the grow your business part, like actually just growing the business, like finding buyers, right? And we're about to switch over. And by the end of this week, we're switching over to Elements, where we start talking about how to run it, like the details on showing houses, marketing listings, all that stuff. So the content just continues to build from here. And it really is like your real estate business in a box. Now, all I can do is share a high level conversation with you, and I call it the mastery level conversation around the topics. And I need you guys to jump in if you need to pull it into your reality, because I'm kind of taking you to a pretty high level when we go through this content. Just from coaching when I was at MAPS, coaching the top KW agents and my own business and all that other stuff. So, I mean, I'm just bringing you that conversation from my level, from working with a lot of different agents and what I saw. So, and again, just jump in whenever if you guys have any questions. This one, lead generating for buyers and sellers. I mean, this one pops up a lot because we're always lead generating for new business. But today's topic is really about finding buyers. And let me just, I do need some participation from you guys, whether you're using the chat box or whatever. If you're in a spot where you can do that, if you're not, and you can just unmute, throw a couple things out there and I'll throw them in the chat box for everybody else. But what are you guys doing for buyers right now? Where are you finding buyers at? How many buyers are you working with at a time in a market when, you know, the inventory's low and blah, 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 blah? Where are you getting buyers? Are you not finding buyers? Do you need more buyers? Where are you guys finding buyers at, or are you not finding them at all?
I need more.
Go ahead, Dave.
I need more. The ones I've got now, I've got 4 that I've been working with for probably 6 months at least. We just can't find anything that's suitable for them.
Oh, wait, I might have something here if we got more people that have information that they want to share about. Do you have buyers that you've been working with for a while and you haven't found them anything? And if so, how many? Hey, Kelly. So is everybody else no buyers at all?
I have a couple of buyers for right now and some for down the road in the year. We are down here by Fort Riley, and so we cater to the PCSing, and right now there's not a lot of people moving into the area in February. I have 2 closings at the end of this month, and then I have someone who's supposed to come shop this weekend to hopefully go under contract. I've been doing videos for them for since around Thanksgiving, but some life has been happening. And so they just couldn't get out here and look in person, and they weren't ready to move forward just based on videos. So hopefully they're going to be under contract by the end of the weekend. But just like finding buyers for February and March has been really difficult just because no one's coming here. Everyone's come, or they're here and they're waiting for their spouse to come off rotation in April or May. And so they're just not moving forward until that. So getting them to make a decision, or they're waiting on orders and they're finding out if they're staying or leaving. So there's a lot of factors that are uncontrolled by the buyers, and then also something I can't mitigate for them.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So, I mean, the main thing on that is that your only source of real estate deals is really just through that alone, or do you have to go outside of the base and stuff and actually do stuff with just the local community as well?
So primarily it's through the base, just because we tried to niche down into the people that are using a VA loan, and so that we're trying to be experts on that. And then also the fact that they are moving continually, and kind of be really aware of their situation and be able to help them. But we're not opposed to going into the community. It's just there's like we maybe are not very good at that. There's only on our little team, there's only 2 of us here right now. So like between the 2 of us doing what we're doing with the military side of things, but then also trying to expand, go outside of that into the community hasn't been very, I guess we haven't been very successful with that. We try to reach out through, like, our team does stuff like for Thanksgiving, we give away pies. And so then we try to meet people that way. But we're, and I'll say, like, our teams, we're an expansion team. So we have teams all over the country, and in the places where there's several agents and they've been there for a while and really built up their clientele, they do events. Like, so for Halloween, there was a big trunk or treat where we did a small thing and we handed things out for Halloween. They actually were able to have enough people to do a trunk or treat where they're in the community that way. And so we're working towards that. We're just small right now. And the other girls that were on the team before we joined just didn't have, well, even the people that they did buy and sell with are not necessarily here anymore. So, and that's the other problem, is our people constantly leave. So we're like not able to maintain those relationships because one of us is leaving in 1 to 3 years. Yeah.
Well, and I remember meeting you when I was in Manhattan too. And it is one of those things where I know you were just kind of stepping into the role at that time, weren't you? Like, you had just come on the team not too long before I met you, probably what, about 3-4 months ago?
Yes. Yeah. So I just joined the team in September. So
yeah.
So right when I met you was like right when I had joined.
So one point on this, you guys, and the reason why I asked the question is, if you have a supply like that and you have a niche and it's providing enough business that you can make a living off of it, that's not a bad thing. It's if you do have a niche, and I'll say it in not necessarily your terms there for the base, but there are people that will target a neighborhood, and they'll target a neighborhood that they like. And when I ask how many houses are in the neighborhood, it could be like a gated community of 50 homes. Well, that's not going to be something that you can really build your base to live off of from that neighborhood. Even though it's a nice neighborhood and you like it and it's gated, you want to find places where there's activity happening and buyers are moving in, maybe like a 500 home neighborhood where there's 50 to 100 homes moving in there every single year. So that if you were going to target something, that just making sure that you have enough business coming in from that source. If not, you need to look at some of those other sources, and the MREA book has several sources. Now, I know we've got the Haberger team and the PERT team in here too. I don't know if you guys have anything to add, like maybe even just to share where some of your buyers are coming from, what's working for you guys, if you have anything to add or share on that, since we're talking about finding buyers. Are you guys having good luck finding buyers and capturing buyers? And if so, where are they coming from?
I personally have buyers, but having trouble with inventory, and not all of them are ready from a credit worthy standpoint to be able to secure a loan. Op City has been pretty successful. We get sign calls, from our listings, and Greg primarily does the listings, and Kyle. So some of our leads come in from a sign call on one of our own properties, and
All right, cool.
yeah, that's kind of driving it right now.
All right.
We have been doing Facebook ads, but they haven't driven much in a while.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
similar to the Kurtz, Havigers, we do open houses as much as we have listings that are on that long to do an open house. Some of them aren't on long enough to do an open house. Facebook ads that we put in, sign calls from our listings, but we also do quite a bit of circle prospecting around our buyers solds and our listings solds, trying to find other people in those areas.
Awesome. So yeah, I want to grab on a couple things that you guys have talked about. So this first one here where it says finding buyers, 89% of the buyers purchase through a real estate agent. And this kind of comes back to what you said earlier, Dave, when you have, so first of all, I'll go from the angle of you have buyers, you've been working with them for a while and they're not finding what they like. So how do you get more buyers so you can get enough of them in the pipeline? The other thing that this is kind of like finding buyers. So I'm just going to spend a second on this. For the buyers that are looking that aren't finding anything because of low inventory, one of the things that we'll talk about on our capture form, and because it is all about capturing, and we'll get to that in a minute. But when you capture what they're looking for, one thing I like to ask them is, what is, even though it's a low inventory, I still say, what is your ideal property, right? What is the ideal perfect house? And yet when we do the normal search and we set them up on a search, we open that search up, and I don't know about you guys, but putting in a way looser search, not making it too tight, down to 2 baths, or it might be 1.5 or more baths. If they say 5 to 10 acres, you might search 3 to 3 acres and up, right? Stuff like that. So opening the search up so that they can find more. Yet it's just explaining to that buyer in that very first thing when you're setting up those searches that I'm going to over send you some properties. So don't think that I'm not listening to you, because there's a lot of agents that send buyers on searches for something that absolutely does not match what they're looking for. A lot of times, if you set the search up wider to catch more properties in this market, where a buyer might list, say, 10 things that would be in their perfect house, in this market, you might only get 4 or 5 of those things. So that's a good conversation to have with a buyer around. Now I know there's all this stuff you want in a house. And if you find a house that in this market that has 4 to 5 of those, say 10 things that you listed, that's usually a pretty good house in this market, because the inventory is low and they're not going to probably find 10 of 10 very often. And also, just confirming, if we do find you that 10 of 10 house, it's probably going to be a lot of other people's 8 and 7s and 9s of their 10, and you're going to compete for those houses more, and you'll pay a little more for those houses. So just keep all that in mind when we're going through the process. So one of the quick things, if it's finding the buyer some houses to actually get a contract, pull up expireds and withdrawals and cancels, and those from like a year or 2 ago, but put in very specific criteria and find their dream home down to the floor plan, the bedrooms, the opposite of what I just said, right? Find the detail ones, because then you do have a potential buyer for those, and that could be a potential listing. The other one is solds from 5 to 10 years ago. So finding buyers, and I'm going to kind of come back to, I believe that's Eric that's jumped on there, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, cool. Sorry, I missed your script class. I bet it was awesome as usual.
We had a very productive script class.
Nice, nice. So if there's any buyer scripts you can throw in that you covered in that class that you want to reiterate, just let me know at any time where it's appropriate to throw that in.
Sure.
So on the circle prospecting, write this down for finding buyers. finding buyers. NAR has said something, I've seen it in a study before, and I based a lot of searches on that, but that people move within about 5 miles of where they currently live. They move, and that's probably because the kids in school for the most part. So they move within 5 miles of where they currently live, and they usually move up 50% in value. So if they're in a $200,000 house, they'll move up to a $300,000 house within 5 miles of where they currently live. And then you layer on top of that, that they move the average person moves every 5 to 7 years. So if somebody truly wanted to find buyers that are absolutely going to lead to sellers, and 89% of them used an agent, well, the MLS system has a gold mine of future buyers that you don't have to compete with. You don't have to try and capture on a website. You don't have to pay for. Imagine if you just went into MLS, go back to solds 5 to 10 years ago, and pull up an area or a price range that you want to market in. And what you'll do is you'll just look for the people that bought 5 to 10 years ago that haven't sold since. So I don't know if you can check tax records. Can you guys check tax records and history to see if it's sold in the last 5 years? I'm seeing a nod, yes. So I can pull those up in the area 5 miles around the price range or neighborhood that I want to target. And I can just start calling those people or layering information, dropping things off in the neighborhood, mailing or emailing, or however you want to get in touch with them. Send them something along the lines of, hey, have you thought about moving? Have you thought about upsizing your house? Have you thought about taking advantage of the current market? Because right now they can cash out on their sale of their home for probably the most they're ever going to get. And anytime we're buying a new house, I mean, even at 4% interest rates, they still could buy a bigger, better home that's going to be appreciating at a higher level than the one they're in. If they're in a $200,000 house, and let's just say they're appreciating a normal 5%, right? And you move into a $300,000 house appreciating at 5%, that appreciation difference is free money. That's free. It's appreciation. It's the American dream, right? So you can help them buy a home maybe at the lower end of a bigger neighborhood. So if it's a $500,000 neighborhood and there's a couple $300,000 or $400,000 homes that come on in there, sure, they might go $10,000 or $20,000 over to get it if it's multiple offers and it's at the low end of the neighborhood. However, if it's appreciating, the market's still going up, they've got some time to get some free appreciation in their new home. So a script that I like to use in this market is, you don't want to buy when the market's going down, then the values are going down. You want to buy while the market values are going up, and we're still in an appreciating market at the moment. It's not declining yet. So if you buy now, you're going to get some free appreciation before the market turns, and you're selling your house while you're at the top of that market. Unfortunately, for anyone who hasn't used these kind of scripts before, you're not going to be able to sell for top dollar and buy for low dollar. Those two worlds don't exist. The closest that I've ever seen them exist, and you guys, you guys are, some of you are as experienced, been selling for a long time. You guys can add into this, but the closest I've ever seen to that was in the 05, 06, 07, when the market crashed, that you could sell your house at the top, well, almost top dollar if it was a good neighborhood. You wouldn't get top dollar, but top dollar for the market. But you would have been able to buy like a foreclosure or something at the very, very low dollar and maybe fix that back up so that once it started appreciating. But see, that's what I'm even saying there. They don't even coincide together at the same time. That was just the closest I ever saw. Have you guys ever seen a market where you can sell high and buy low? No. They very seldom exist. So you want to buy while the values are going up so you can sell while the values are going up. You got anything to add, Dave?
The only time I've ever seen it would be when you're going up almost, maybe let's say doubling your price range, where you might sell a 250 to 300 in a very hot market, and then the 550 to 7 might be slow.
Yeah.
So you might be able to sell high, buy low, but that's usually instead of the 1.5 times, which is the average, when you're going to bounce up 2 to 2.5 times your sales price, you might bump into something that you might be able to pull something off like that.
You must have talked to my last wife, Sonia, before, because she got me to move into that big monster freaking house. And we did sell ours at a good price, but we got that one on a foreclosure and beat out other
Yep.
offers. But yeah, we doubled our price. So yeah, yeah. Cool. So here's another one, guys. This is a big one. 41% of all buyers found their agent through a referral or friend or family. And this is kind of where I love to sound like a broken record, because guys, it is your database. It is that master list. It's your Facebook friends list. It is your cell phone, that when you do that master list and you really focus on getting the people you know into your database and reconnecting, that keeping in mind that 98% of the people that we're talking to every day are not moving right this minute. They are friends and families, and you're creating relationships with them. And 41% of the buyers that are in the marketplace are being told, hey, you need to call so-and-so. So get those relationships reconnected with your database. And I say it's kind of the slow boat to China way to do your business, but 100% of everybody you add is going to move in the next 5 to 7 years. And we didn't even talk about 41% of the buyers are coming from those people in the first place. So it is the secret. It's the double secret, because most people are out there trying to find buyers through Facebook ads, the open houses, all that stuff. When in actuality, our own database could be a huge provider of those buyers. And the other thing to think of too is 75% of all buyers interview one real estate agent. So this is the next thing I want to make sure you get out of today's session, and that is capture every single one of them. Capture. We're going to talk about the capture form that you have in the book, and I'll show you kind of a real world one and what that looks like. But every single person you talk to, if you can get into the mindset, even when we were looking for buyers, and I think you guys tell me if it's different in your world, most of the buyers we meet, and I think Kelly already said this once, is that we got a lot of buyers that either aren't approved yet or just starting the process. Any buyers coming in from the internet are usually 3 to 4 to 5 months away from being an active buyer. I know I've seen it way too many times where a buyer is captured by an agent that actually captures them, puts them in the database, stays in touch with them from the internet. They turn into a buyer like a year later. Even so, they weren't approved and they weren't qualified. However, Kelly, you probably keep these people in your database and stay in touch with them so that when they do get their credit score up, they're still in your system and you're the only one that's probably kept in touch with them, right? Yeah, so it's all about capture and that drip and that follow-up, guys. So, I mean, think about it. Every single human being you meet every single day, you want to get them captured, which is get them into Command or get them into whatever database you're not using if you're not using Command, and turn on those reminder plans. Does anybody have anything else they want to add on any of these statistics here on finding buyers? Great conversation so far. This is awesome. All right, I will tell you just on capturing buyers. Let me see where we are here. Capturing buyers, getting them in the database, the next step is to cultivate that. And this is where I'll give you guys some high-level scripts. And I also want to hear what you guys might be using to capture these as well, because we can all learn from each other on that. So that cultivate section. So not only do you capture them and you got their lead or contact or whatever, but the cultivate section. 98%, 99% of everyone that you do capture is probably going to be sitting in the cultivate. Even if you think they're a buyer, they still got to get pre-approved. If they're a buyer that's not pre-approved and not actively looking at houses, they are in the cultivate stage. And during the cultivation, there's things that you can do to set them up to just think about real estate all the time, kind of push them up through the chain and have them buy houses faster and earlier than they maybe had planned to. So that cultivate stage is just look at that and know that that's where most of them are going to get stuck. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because look at the neck at the bottom. Appointments, actively out looking, under contract, and closing them so we can get commission check. That's where our eyes go. The real estate agents are like, how do I get more buyers in the appointment, the actively looking, under contract, and close stage? Well, they have to come out of the cultivate stage. and knowing that you're going to have 98% of them in the cultivate before you ever get them to those bottom 4. Only 1 to 2, maybe at the most, I've seen as high as 3% on a very, very efficiently run cultivation capture program. Maybe 3% will end up in that bottom row. But here's what we know, 100% of them will absolutely end up in the bottom row. You just have to cultivate them. You have to grab them, hold on to them, and not let them go anywhere. So is there anything you guys are doing that you're staying in touch with buyers? Like, have you tracked your business enough to know how many buyers you usually have cultivating at any given time, and how are you staying in touch with them? If anybody wants to add or share on that. I mean, Brandy, do you do any kind of a military drip and stuff on people, or do you, especially if they're out of the area, or you send them local information, or not necessarily got that set up yet?
So our team uses Brivity to take care, to like put all of our people in. And so we actually have kind of a lot of people managing all of our leads. And so if they come in so if we do Facebook ads, or a lot of them come in through Facebook, and then there's like a forced registration, and they come in, and as long as they're looking in, so we're at Fort Riley, if they're looking in the Fort Riley area, then here we just take care of them. But if they are, and we find out as quickly as we can when they're coming to the area, or if they're already in the area, if they're leaving, and when we find out they're leaving, we push them over to someone who's, say, at Fort Bragg, and we have our auto plans set up to where we speak to them immediately. And then we also have, if they don't, we get a lot of people that aren't really shopping or anything. And so then we have the just the auto plans that keep in touch with them for the first 30 days. And then we follow up regularly. Obviously, it depends on who we are. I personally try to at least go back, and we can filter it out by like who's been on the website in the last 30 days. And so if they've been looking at houses, then we talk to them right away. And if they haven't been, then whatever notes we have on them, like they're not moving here for 6 months, they just found out there, because we usually know about 6 to 9 months if you're going to PCS somewhere. And so especially spouses, we go in there and like, let's go find our house, knowing we can't find our house until we're actually going. So 6 to 9 months out is when we usually start getting people looking. And so then we just, if we're on our business, then we make sure that we are following up with them almost monthly, because orders change. So I like to come back at least during that first 6 to 9 months, and or I say six months if it's a 9-month wait. And so make sure at least monthly I'm saying, hey, did your orders change? Are you still coming? Is your timeline moved up? If your timeline hasn't changed, do you want to shop before you get here? Do you want to shop once you get here? And then we have a buyer guide that we send out. We have our lenders that we work with all the time that we send out. And so if we just sent out big mass emails about the rates changing. And so all that stuff, we just kind of bounce off of each other. And like, if something's working for someone in another state, they say, hey, this woke up about 7 ghosts. So like, send this out to your people and we can get people started back again. And so I think I went like off the topic of the question, but basically that's it. We just kind of try to track and make sure nobody's left more than a week or 2 at a time without hearing from someone.
Yeah, I'm actually, you brought up a really good point, because it doesn't even matter that it's, getting their papers and get transferred in. And I think anybody else could probably jump in too. Most buyers that are coming in off of ads or Facebook or Zillow, any of that kind of stuff, are usually 5, 6, 7, 8 months away from being a buyer. They got to get there. I mean, we just know, unless you guys are getting all your leads are coming in pre-approved and they're already out looking at houses. How many of you are getting those constantly, all day long, every day, right? Almost none of them are approved yet. They haven't started the process. And I think the big point, this came up in another conversation over buyers, is that they don't know the process. They don't know that they got to get pre-approved first. They don't know that they shouldn't be shopping on Zillow instead of your site. So there is that nurturing, that cultivation is where you can educate them that you are the go-to person. So once you get them in your system, what is your follow-up? And again, we don't really take a ton of time going into command over details. We got Carol that can show you everything. And if you guys want a specific class on anything in particular, just let me know, and we'll either find somebody doing it or Carol can provide it or whatever. But it is, what I always say is, what is that follow-up plan? What are the 8, 9, 10 things that are going to happen from the first time you cross paths with them? And how many personal touches are on there? I heard you say, Brandy, the phone call. Phone call is probably the big one that I see missing from everybody's follow-up. In every plan of every aspect of the real estate business, one of the things that consumers complain about most is communication. There's times where they're sitting on their side and they're not sure what's up. And a little bit different when they're waiting for their transfer papers, they're probably not thinking about it. However, I'm also going to make a suggestion today that we're going to start planting real estate seeds in their brain every day so that they're building up excitement to actually start looking at houses and get pre-approved. I'll share that with you. But when you're looking at your plan, if you don't have a plan, a series of events that happens for every single person you meet and a way to stay in touch with them, go into command and look at some of the plans, look at some of the smart plans, and put yourself on that plan. There's a ton of buyer stuff in there, a ton of buyer stuff. So what I would suggest is put yourself in your command if you're not already in there. Find a couple of these buyer plans, drip plans, follow-up plans, whatever they are, buyer information packets, it's over the process, everything. Put yourself on it and start running that smart plan so you can see what it looks like. Almost always do that. If you pull anything out of the library, you want to see what's kicking out and what that content looks like before you're using it. However, one of the things I do is I'll put myself on the plan, but I'm already adding people and starting them on them in about a week. Within a week, I'm like putting people on that plan because I've just figured out content doesn't matter. The better you stay in touch with people, whatever you're sending out, if there's something that's going out and you see it first, you can correct it. If something goes out, most people aren't even looking at the content anyway. It's more the phone calls and the personal touches that'll matter. But there's ways to capture that information. Well, actually, let me go, before I go there, is there anybody that has any kind of follow-up plans that seem to be working and cultivating your buyers at a pretty good rate? Or anything particular, like 1 or 2 pieces that you know they look at or they call you about? Because I know one of the things that is always good is that if somebody's visiting a website and looking at properties, let's just say they came from Zillow, Trulia, whatever, and they also come from our KW site and they're searching for properties. If you can keep properties in front of them, if they're thinking about moving, then the more we can keep properties in front of them as they're hitting the market, the more you can keep that going. And one of the ways to do that is the capture form. We'll talk about the capture form here in just a minute, getting their information and what they're looking for. But it's great. It's these bold scripts, you know, if you were going to move, what's important about that date, right? So what's important about that type of house? And if it were perfect, when would you want to move? Why do you want to be there? Why would you want to move then? And finding out their why. We already talked about that in a previous session. But once you kind of start finding out, so what would the perfect house look like? Like if you saw this house, you would probably pack up and move next week. That will give you a motivation on, well, if I found the perfect house, I'd be ready to move now. So that means that they are probably closer than where they are now. Other people may say, well, we're really just starting the process and we're not sure what to do. Great. This is the time to earn their trust and just say, I'm going to guide you through the process. I'm really glad we're connected today because I can guide you through the process. And if you guys are writing down any kind of words or scripts or anything to work into your language, here's a great one. I'm here to help you take advantage of the current market conditions. I use that all the time, and it's take advantage of the current market conditions. And that can be used in just about any market, but they love take advantage. Another one, I'll give you a great script that's just been kind of a combination of all the scripts that gains their trust and gets them to tell you their life story and to get them off of Zillow and off of Trulia. Not that they will completely come off of it, but that they'll start looking for your stuff and they'll use your stuff more and use your KW page or use your app or whatever it might be. And the script goes basically like this. When you're talking to a stranger and just trying to get over that hump to really get them to trust you, like you, and open up to you, my favorite script is, you know, here's one thing, you're working way too hard. and I pause for a second. So they call about a property, they're just wondering if this property is for sale, or they text you, or however they get a hold of, email you on a property or whatever. If I can get them on the phone and get into conversation, the first conversation I want to get into is, so are you looking for a really good deal? I mean, would you like to find a decent home, if not your dream home, and, you know, not pay too much for it, and you'd like to get a good deal? And you pause so that they can answer that and say, yeah, we'd love to get a great deal. And I know the market's tight, and I know there's a shortage of homes, and I know that prices are going for higher than asking price. So these are all kind of, they're just questions to get the conversation started. When I say, do you want to get a good deal on a house? I'm not saying, do you want to be able to buy a house for $20,000 under asking price? I'm saying a good deal on a house is buying a house that we know is going to appreciate over the next 6 months. And they could pay $10,000, $20,000 over asking price, and it could still be a good deal. And when we say their dream home, buyers don't even know for sure what their dream home is. And if you've ever heard them say buyers are liars, they'll tell you one thing and then they'll buy something different. Any experienced agents on here will tell you, we've talked to a lot of buyers and shown a lot of buyers houses. You guys confirm that they didn't buy what they said they were going to buy, right? So it happens, right? And it's not so much that they lied. That's what we say, the funny side of it. The reality is they just didn't know the process. They didn't know what was out there. Maybe they didn't even really know what they wanted. So that's why I always suggest make your searches looser than tighter. And just once you earn that trust that you're about to set them up on an MLS search, and that's the key. When you're going through, you know, do you want to find a good deal? Yes. Do you want to get a good price on it? Yes. All that stuff. That's where I just lead in to say, well, the way you're looking for a house right now is not the best way to find a home. In fact, haven't you called on some properties that are already sold or already under contract? Isn't that frustrating? And they're like, yes. And it's like, well, we have an instant notification program that I actually send you the properties that match what you're looking for the minute they go live. In fact, you get them so fast. This is the script. You get them so fast, you could literally be one of the first people in the area to even know about the house. And I power drive it with this. In fact, you probably will know about that house before most real estate agents know about that house. Very specific on my words here. And if you haven't picked up, how would they know about it before most real estate agents would know about it? Because you guys aren't sitting in front of the computer watching every new listing come live, are you? So if that buyer is looking for a particular house and you've got a search set up for 4-bedroom homes, 2 stories with 3-car garage, and you have them set up on an MLS search, is there anybody that doesn't know how to set up a search and save it in MLS to be emailed to the client directly? Because that is the key. And it's sending them properties. Now that's an automated plan that's just kind of running. You don't know how often they're going to get properties that match. It depends on how tight your search is and all this other stuff. But that's just going, that's the property search that's going to keep them on fire about buying when they see houses coming through. The other drip plan is the one that has information, the process, that's in your smart plan that you're also running beside the property search, because you don't know how often the property search is going to send. But going back to the script, you're working way too hard. We have an instant notification program. We get you the properties that you're looking for the minute they go live. In fact, you get them so fast, you're probably one of the first people to even know about it in the area. And you're probably even knowing about that particular property before most real estate agents in the area know about that particular property, right? That's how fast we get them to you. So could you see that being a benefit? Well, can you guys sense a little bit of excitement that's probably happening on the other end of the phone? Like, oh my gosh, I've been calling on properties, they're sold, using this website, nobody calls me back, tells me what the price is, and this person can send me instant notification. You've got them caught up in a little bit of an excitement tornado right now. So this is when you go for it with the capture page, and you just say, so I can send you those properties the minute they go live, and you'll be one of the first ones to know about them. Great. What are you looking for? And just roll right into it, right? So once we start getting that search information, which I'll show you the capture page here in a minute, you can capture them in here and put them on an MLS drip and let that thing run. There's more that comes behind that on how to prep them to start looking for the houses, because we've heard some of the top agents, they show 3 houses and write contracts. So this is kind of what we're leading into on these buyers, that when you qualify your buyer leads, that you're going to qualify them by setting them up on a search, having them drive by the properties. They're going to get pre-approved with the lender first. So let me just pause out there for a minute, because now you've kind of heard an idea of getting them in MLS and get them set up on a search. Is there anybody that's doing something similar, something else to capture the buyer, to get them on a drip plan, to get them cultivated into a buyer? Does anybody want to share anything you're doing there?
I got a question.
Yeah.
Hey, on that MLS drip, can it be set up instead of an email? Can it be like a text message to them?
I don't know if the MLS will text. Does anybody know if your MLS will text directly? I don't know that. I mean, ours doesn't, so I don't know. I don't know what your MLS does. I doubt it. However, what does happen, there's a couple of different ways. Now we're into the techie setup side of it. If I've got somebody, I really do want their email. And on the capture form, I'm going to go over here to the capture form. When you're getting all their information and you're rolling through, like I roll through the form. I'll show you guys a sample of one. This is a sample of kind of just the same thing that you're looking at on the screen, but this has the day that the lead came in, where it came from, what the source was, if we're giving a referral out on it, but then it rolls into all their information. And you guys know I'm real big about capturing address and phone number, and I harp that on you guys a lot. However, without the address and without the phone number, you can't send a note. And without the note, personal experience, every single agent that I've ever coached has said, oh my gosh, the note is amazing. Like when they get that note, it's like the door opens up and the trust is there. They like you, they feel good, all that stuff. So the address is critical, which I'll give you a script on making sure you can get that every single time. But when you're getting down to the search, if I'm asking for their email last, if they don't have an email, then I'm probably going to have to text them. If everything that you do, you want to streamline it so you can help as many people as possible and the fastest way possible, especially when we're talking about buyers, getting the properties fast. So Sean, when you asked that about text, if our system doesn't text, then the way that we get you properties faster than anybody else is by email. You understand what I'm saying? Because I will tell you, the second that you say, yeah, I'll text everybody because everybody loves getting texts, then you have to get all the properties sent to you. You have to receive them. You have to find the link, copy and paste it and put it in a text and send it to them. Now, if the system does it automatically, then I'll give them that option. Does that make sense? So the thing is that if we want to get you the properties that you're going to be one of the first ones to know about them, then this is the way we need to do it. And I don't say that like that. I say, I just need an email to make sure you get them the minute they go live. Well, can you just text them to me? Well, I can, but you're going to probably miss out on some because there's a lag between the email coming in and it getting over to you by text. So my question is, are you okay missing out on a couple? See how I turned that whole conversation around to something totally different? It's that they're going to lose out by me sending the text message, when really we just want to say, yeah, I'll send it to you any way I can. But now you just added a whole bunch of stress upon yourself, and they are going to miss properties, and then they're going to get mad at you when they find out they missed one that they should have known about. So that email is the way that I have to do it. If text was available, I would absolutely text. But the thing on, yeah, go ahead. That was good. Anybody have anything else you're doing to capture the buyer, to really, like, I wouldn't even say cultivate them. We want to simmer them and cook them and turn them into a done buyer right up front. Anybody, like just a step or two that you might be doing? All right. You want the script to get their address and phone number every single time? No? Everybody's muted. Where's my mute button? Yes, yes, yes. No, so here's the deal. On that script, when you're going, you're working way too hard. Are you tired of calling on properties that are already sold? We have an instant notification. We can set you up. And I don't say we're going to set you up on an MLS search and we're going to send you properties. The MLS system will send you property. No, say we're going to put you on our instant notification program and let you know about the newest properties the minute they hit the market. In fact, you're going to be one of the first ones to know about them. So you'll probably know about them before even some of the realtors do. And you're going to get them that fast. Now, here's what you want to do to take advantage of the current market conditions. You want to drive by that property as fast as you can. Now, I'm going to pause right here because some of you are like saying, you know, well, don't I need to like get them in for a consultation and show them houses? Yeah, you definitely want to get them in for a consultation and get a buyer agency signed. If you can do that and you're good at that, great. You want to do that. That's the ultimate. However, them getting a listing from me from the MLS and them driving by the property, right, as I'm building this trust and building this rapport, it's not costing me any time right now. And it's a big benefit to them because they are literally one of the first people to drive by the property. So you're going to get these properties so fast that if you drive by it on your lunch break or on your way home, you'll probably be one of the first in the marketplace to even see it. One of the first, not the first. Right. And I didn't say you're going to know about it before any other real estate agent. No, I'm not going to say anything that's not true, but they will know about it before most agents in the area because half the agents haven't sold a property in 6 months, guys. Half the people licensed in our marketplace aren't in the MLS every day. So you can say that, right? So when you drive by that, if you like it, you text me that address and I'll see if it's still available and get it set up as soon as possible. Right. And then that's when you're going to find out what their schedule is like and all that other stuff, even if it's that night. But again, part of the process when you're capturing their information down here at the bottom, it says, have you been pre-approved by a lender? So that plan that we were talking about, when you capture them and put them in command and they're under your internet buyer to buyer agency sign, that could be a plan, right? In there is sending them lender information, sending them our lender's contact information to call and get pre-approved. There's a call in the smart plan scheduled 3 days after an email that goes out that says the email goes out automatically on day 0. First thing you want to do to take advantage of the current market is get pre-approved. Here's the guy or here's the girl, right? Here's the gal. Then 2 days later, it says, or actually immediately following that, it says send them that same thing in the mail. So we just print out our contact information sheet or a loan app from the lender and drop it in the mail to them. Then we have a call scheduled 3 days later that says call the lender and see if they've called them yet to get pre-approved. So here 3 days ago, got a new buyer, set up an MLS search. We just went through the process of drive by the ones you get from us. You'll be one of the first ones to drive by and just text me. Here's my text address. So now they're texting and interacting. Well, if 3 days go by, they haven't contacted the lender, they haven't got pre-approved, they haven't texted you any addresses, they haven't done anything yet, they're probably not I'll go back here, they're probably not an A buyer at the moment. Well, they're definitely not pre-approved, so they're not an A buyer. So one of the things your process can do is actually take your C buyers and let them turn themselves into an A buyer by following the process. And you just set up a smart plan to take them through the process. Because 98% of your buyers aren't buying right this minute. Let the system kind of start converting, let them earn their way to the point where they're driving by properties. Now you're going to have some people that want to call themselves an A buyer right away, and they're going to call you and text you addresses, and they're sitting in front of the house and they want to see this house. And you're going to say, now, did you get the pre-approval started? Did you already hear back from the lender? No, we haven't even started that yet. It's like, man, I'm telling you, if you want to take advantage of the market, this is not the way to do it. If you walk into that house and you love that house and you're not pre-approved and it sells today, you're going to be so upset you missed that house. Call my guy real quick. He can do it over the phone in 15 minutes. Let's get that started. That's real world conversations that we're having with real buyers, and they're sticking with us. They're not feeling like we're pushing them off. They're feeling like, man, they're helping me take advantage of the market. And they're caught up in the moment. There's a buyer right now, one of my buyer's agents on my team, that she wanted to go look at a house. He did exactly this. He just followed the process. Sure enough, he's 2 weeks out. They got some other stuff they got to do on their credit. We let the lender tell them they weren't approved yet. And we told the lender, because when we called and said, have they gotten approved yet? He said, no. He's like, man, I knew they weren't approved. And then we got to tell the lender, say, will you call them back and make sure they understand what you're missing? And will you say you probably shouldn't be looking at houses yet? And the lender said, oh yeah, I'll say that all day long. They shouldn't be. Great. So it just confirms what he was telling them, that he's not out showing them houses before they're pre-approved. So anyway, that process of capturing and going through that smart plan will actually take them through approval with triggers in there for you to check on them and see how they're doing. And then there's a weekly, like the week call, a week from the first time we meet them is where we touch base with them again and find out. So sometimes you're going to hear buyers say, a lot actually, you're going to say, well, maybe we jumped the gun a little bit. We're probably not ready for a few months. You could take us off that search. If you hear them say, take us off the search, just know that they're probably going to be buying sometime in the next probably 3, 4, 6 months to a year, right? There's a lot of buyers that it takes them a year to get approved. Maybe Haberger team or Kelly or somebody can confirm you've had buyers in your system for a year to get their credit cleaned up, and then they turn into a buyer a year later. So your follow-up is like super, super key. And they'll turn into a buyer just out of the blue. You'll get a call from the lender going, hey, finally got Stephen Lee approved. And Stephen Lee goes and looks at a house the next day and writes an offer on it. So that Stephen Lee was a year-old lead that didn't have his credit in line, and he's been working on it so hard to get to the point to own a house. Now he's got that opportunity. So it is that cultivation stage is where most of them are going to be sitting most of the time. Make sure I covered everything. So I think that's, oh, getting the buyer's agency agreement signed. So again, signing the buyer's agency agreement, I think when you move through this process and you're setting them up on an MLS search, and then you're checking on the pre-approval process and you're moving them from a C to an A buyer, somewhere in there, you're going to get that opportunity to say, let's get a time to meet and go over the process. And COVID probably, I mean, actually, here's where I need to open it up. How many of you are religiously 100% of the time getting buyer's agencies signed now before you ever go show them a house? Or is there some variation of that in between? Or are you just literally doing buyer agencies when you write contracts? What's really, really happening out there? And anybody who has had a buyer can just tell us what you've done with your last buyer. Are you signing buyer's agencies at contract time? Are you signing them up front? Are you getting them in for consultations? What's that look like?
Most of mine are at contract time. I've had a couple up front.
Yep. Anybody else? How many of you aren't getting that buyer agency signed if you haven't worked with a buyer yet, but you might have people you've been showing houses to and you haven't gotten a buyer agency signed because you just don't know how to get them to sign this contract? Is that happening?
I had one guy, even we were writing a contract and he was pretty reluctant to sign it. And I mean, we had to specify the exact property address, and he wanted to put his own verbiage in it. And I mean, it was just awkward.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at least you're having a conversation with them about it at that time so that you can ask, so what is it about the contract you're not comfortable with, right? And I mean, I'll just tell you, I would refer anything to Chris, but I don't change anything in the contracts. We really are not attorneys, so we're not supposed to do that. You can add some extra stuff in there, like the property address. And I've had that happen with a buyer before. Actually, even a buyer that actually calls on every single property, but they're looking in a couple other states, and that's fine. They're going to buy the house with our team anyway, so I'm not worried about it. But you should be, because if it's just a random buyer that's coming in out of the blue, well, here's what I'm going to say about it all. When you have a conversation and that comes in and you're there to come from contribution and be of value to them and guide them through the process to take advantage of the market conditions, when you get that conversation going and you do the free, instant notification and, oh my gosh, oh, I told you I was going to give you the script on getting their address and phone number too. So I'll do that real quick and I'll come back to that. So when you're going through that, instant notification free, you'll be one of the first ones to know about it, drive by the properties, blah, blah, blah. And they're all excited because they do get caught up in the excitement in that when you master that conversation, which, by the way, there's a free resource site that I have together. And if you guys haven't gone there yet, I'll type it in the chat box. This is just Brad Korn's little accumulation of webinars, and your database is a gold mine and all that other stuff, but this script is on there. So emythrealestateagent.com, it has a sign-in page, and you sign in, and then the next page it'll take you to after you submit your stuff there will be a script on there that has all this. So after I say driving by the property first to know, now one of the things I'll do right now is I'll go ahead and find out what's on the market now, just print it off in MLS. Unfortunately, a lot of what I'm going to print out now is either overpriced, it's on the market for a reason. If it's not sold, you know, in the first week or two or the first month, there may be something wrong with it or overpriced or whatever. So I'm just going to print that list off first, and then I'm going to send you the newest properties the minute they hit. So I'll go ahead and print that list today. Where would I mail that to? And I'm telling you, as weird as that sounds right now, listening to it, 100%, 99.9% of the time, they'll give you their address. What do you mean, Mike? My mailing address? That's how they'll kind of say it. And you go, oh yeah, that'd be perfect. Like they're the ones that thought of it. No, yeah, that'd be perfect. That's how the conversation will go over 90% of the time, I promise, if you roll it out right. And they say, yeah, that's perfect. That'll work. And they'll give you the, okay, it's 123, because they're caught up in the conversation. Then you say, now, if I find a sweet deal, like it's a underpriced property that's going to go fast, what's the best number for me to reach you at? Oh, this number, your cell phone. Okay, got it. Right. And then you say, now, and then what's the best email to get the newest properties from? So when we were asking about text message, I'm going straight to the email. And, or is there another email that you want to send those properties to? And then you say, well, by the way, do you check email pretty regularly? What are they going to say? Probably every day, right? Say, I'll just email you all this stuff. Now, I had to do that to get the address so I can drop a handwritten note in the mail. It's always exciting to watch people buying or taking advantage of the American dream, buying a home. Look forward to helping you get through the process and take advantage of the current market, Kelly, right? And to drop that note in the mail, and that's what kind of secures the future conversations and the trust. You went from the limbic part of the brain of being a stranger on the phone that they could talk to anybody to somebody that's going to help them take advantage of the current market, and they can process everything. So that's how I get name, address, phone number. It's on that website. It's free. Anyway, it'll take you there. Just save that under the favorites. But back to this, once you got a two-way conversation going, and you're talking about the benefits of taking advantage of the current market, that's when you can say, now, if you've got 10 or 15 minutes, you could come by, see the office, we could meet face to face, and I'll kind of give you some more tips on how this process works so that you can really know what to expect. And if they come in, great, then you have the opportunity to do that. If they don't, then, again, just stay in touch with them until you get that opportunity. So I don't hang it up too much on buyer agency either. COVID really dampened like getting people just to regularly come into the office, but that wasn't the excuse for not doing it. We're the only people, if you have a built-in drip plan that stays in touch with them for a longer period of time than just a couple of first connections, you're going to earn their trust and be the only one that's keeping in touch with them. So you'll probably get them most of the time anyway. So any questions on the buyer agency? I don't want to take it lightly, but I also don't want you to get hung up on it. I'll be honest, MLS search, automatic search, they're driving by the properties until they're pre-approved and actually you're meeting them at properties. You don't have a whole lot of time invested in them anyway, right? So you're not really losing anything other than probably about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. Now, if you can get that trust in there and get the buyer agency signed, you got a better chance that they're going to use you to buy a house, because the other method, I will tell you that I track things pretty close. Even everybody that I've ever coached and stuff, I track things tight. And this method, without getting a buyer agency signed, I know of at least 30 sales the Korn team didn't have last year because we didn't have them come in, meet with them, but there was no time invested to go show them properties either. They just never turned into an A buyer. They were a C buyer, might have turned into a B, but they actually did. I'm not going to say they were an A buyer, like they went and got pre-approved and came in and signed the buyer agency ahead of time and they were ready to move. Those 30 sales bought a house. But the time that we had invested in the ones that did close, those people were signing buyers agencies and they totally trusted us. these people wouldn't really take that next step. So they did buy a house, so I don't know how lost they were really. So anyway, let me just kind of pull it all together and see if there was any, was there anything I shared today that you're just like, wow, I'm glad I was on this call and heard that. I could see myself using that, or anything else you want to add?
I just really like what you shared around it's a different spin on words, because I often say I'll set you up with an MLS search. I mean, those are the words that I use, and it's just, you know, to the point. That's exactly what I'm doing, but I can understand what you're saying, how it would get a different response, I guess, with the excitement.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it is about taking our terminology out. They buy a house every 5 to 10 years. So MLS, even though you think everybody knows what it is, they don't. It's like, so it's the computer system all the real estate agents use. Like when they hit the live button, you're getting a copy of that, right? So those things. And the other one that I didn't really talk about, guys, is, you know, you're finding, I know you're on other sites out there. If you see any property at all on another website, you drive by it, somebody tells you about a property, I'm telling you, text me the address and I can find out what's really going on with that property. And the way you say that means like they're going to get the inside scoop. Like I'm like a detective. I can find out all kinds of stuff about that property. So no matter where you find it, and what that's doing is getting them off the other sites. Or at least if they're using something else, they're texting you just text me the address. I'll see if it's really available, and I can find out a whole lot of stuff about it that you might want to know. So you end up becoming the go-to person. So I'm glad you brought that up, Kelly, because it is just how we say that. Yep. Cool. Anything else? Anybody else grab anything out of here that you might be able to take back and use? Dave, you know where to go find some listings for some houses to sell your buyers without having to compete for them now, right?
Yes, I do. I've got homework.
And you know what? Here's the great thing. Most buyers don't buy the first house they see. They might buy the second or third in this market. It used to be 10. So you're probably going to pick up a couple of listings along the way.
I'd hate for that to happen.
I know. Listings.
I do have a question about something.
Yeah.
It's a scenario that I'm kind of working through right now, and wanted to see if you had any advice. But so the guy called our team line because we have some land listed, and he's lives in Lawrence, but he comes here every week because his family's here, and I think they watch their grandkids. And so I got to talking about him, and he wanted to know about some of the covenants and that sort of thing. And I said, yeah, I can, dig that up and send it to you. And we talked about other homes that might already be built in the area. And he let me know that he has a family member that's an agent in Kansas City. And he said, I'd be basically, stricken from the family if I didn't use this person. And, but I'm thinking, why would somebody from Kansas City want to be driving here all the time, showing a house in Topeka? So I'm still trying to get my foot in the door. And I've asked, maybe could you share the individual's name, and maybe he and I can work out something where I can show you the homes and he doesn't have to drive here. And
yeah, several ways you can handle that. And that's the first one. If that is an option for you, it's like, listen, your family member can be very involved. However, as a buyer or a seller, and you could probably even ask your family member this, right? If you were buying or selling, you want to use an agent that knows the market to make sure you're not paying too much, that knows all the different inspections. I know Kansas, and I'd be having a casual conversation. I would have started this by saying, hey, I appreciate that. A lot of people have family members in real estate. The thing with most real estate agents, they'll usually refer it out to a local agent, because it's not so much about every commission check we make. It's about making sure our clients get the right, take advantage of the current market conditions the right way for that market. So unless they sell a lot of stuff here, we can obviously work out a deal with the family members so they're involved and they can kind of be in the process. But You want somebody local to help you, especially with land. I mean, land is not just a cookie cutter thing. So everything sells for different amounts per acreage. So yeah, I would just say we can definitely work something out, and just know that we're one of the top agents in the market here. We know this market inside and out. And I can definitely provide you with a lot of members. So yeah, I'd be more than happy to call your family member for you and see how we can have them very involved in part of the transactions. Most of the time they usually say, oh my gosh, that would be awesome, you know, because they just don't want to tick grandma off or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and a lot of times too, guys, with referrals, I know that just happened coming back this way to Kansas City, and it's an agent there in our office that was saying, yeah, this guy really is like buying something there. I'm not licensed in Missouri, and but he wants me to be involved. It's like, just tell him we're partners. That's what a referral fee is. We're partners in the deal. You are getting taken care of. Always just work it like a partnership. Hey, me and your family member can become a partner on this deal, and yeah, they'll be involved. So, and that's if you want to do a referral fee. If you didn't, there's still the other harder script of, you know, a lot of people don't like to use family members because it can cause a rift if something doesn't go right, especially if they're not from the area. This would be if I didn't want to share the referral fee. I might go down that path and just say it's probably best that you don't use a family member unless they're like a top agent and they know a lot of top people. And if that's the case, we might already know them. So, you know what I mean? I just have conversations like that all the time.
Okay.
Cool. All right, guys. We're a little bit over our time. So good questions, great participation. And we'll be back here on Wednesday with number 8.